Hi there. I am here with Makenzie Marzluff, and I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for having me.
Just a little bit of insight about Makenzie. We're going to dive deep into some big stuff, so I don't want to spend too much time on the logistics, but you should know that Makenzie is a conscious entrepreneur, and we're definitely going to talk on that as well. She is the founder of Delighted by Dessert Hummus, which is in the US currently, across a number of stores, right?
Yes.
And on its way to Australia at some point.
Crossing fingers on that one.
Yeah. And also cacao ceremonial drinking chocolate, which I have had the pleasure of experiencing, and I can only just recommend it so much, which she works on with her partner Michael. So the reason that I guess that I'm drawn to Makenzie and to share her with you is the way that she goes about her enterprises and her life, in that it's led by soul and this spiritual guidance, which is so super important to me, and I know is important to people out there. So that's why we're doing this. That's why I want to have this conversation with you, because I know for myself that it takes a tremendous amount of courage to live your life in that way. So I'd love to give people some ideas about how they can do that more. So are you ready to just dive in?
Let's go. I love it. Thank you for the intro. It's beautiful.
No problems. Okay, so how was it that you were able to tune in with your inner wisdom? Actually, no, let's clarify some terms. So I tend to say inner wisdom.
Sure.
Or intuition or soul voice, but I also refer to higher guidance.
Sure.
So can you tell me what's the best way for you to talk about that as well?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I say both as well, but it's the same thing.
Sure, okay.
So I would say I discovered my higher guidance, but that was definitely my higher self as well.
Sure.
You know, and it definitely comes from, when I think of where it comes from like here, like my heart. Sure. Yeah. So that feels really internal.
Okay, well, I'll just chop and change.
Yes. So whatever works for you.
Okay, so how was it that you were, in the first instance, able to connect with that wisdom?
Yeah, great question. In 2014, I went through a very rough personal year. And I actually hit complete rock bottom, went through a depression after a really tumultuous relationship, and just definitely a traumatic year for me on many levels.
Okay.
And I had actually walked away completely from all spirituality and religion because I had grown up religious.
Yeah.
And that was a very that was a place of separation for me. It didn't feel loving, and that's why I had turned away from it. But when I hit rock bottom, I literally dropped to my knees and had found this place with no other option other than to find surrender, you know, and asking for some assistance, because I would have taken my life otherwise. Yeah. So because I dropped on my knees and I surrendered to something bigger than me, because I had no other choice, it was a matter of survival, then I started attracting some really beautiful forces in my life, such as a roommate that I had found on Craigslist. Do you have Craigslist here?
A similar thing. Gumtree.
Okay, Gumtree. Yes, exactly. So found a random roommate who started introducing me to spiritual concepts, but from a really loving place, a really unity place, and inclusive, I should say. And that started preparing me for my journey with plant medicines. So you've heard of plant medicines?
Yeah.
And so my first experience with plant medicines was with ayahuasca, which is a tea from the jungle. And so in that ceremony, I actually, so many messages came to me that it was so clear to me there's something bigger than me.
Sure,
you know, so it was
undeniable.
Yeah, there was no turning back at that point.
Yep.
So between all of that work, I just got really comfortable with saying, Spirit, guide me, in my personal life, and then which that translated to business.
Yeah, sure.
I had run businesses from a very masculine mind place in the past, and once I embarked on this spiritual journey, I knew there was a much easier, graceful way to do it.
Yeah.
And that was from my guidance. So.
Can I go back and ask you about, you said you met somebody that was willing to share some spiritual ideas with you, and what did you say, in a place of unity?
Inclusive, yeah.
Were you scared though?
I was specifically scared of the word God.
Yeah.
Because again, that word felt like fear-based, or it had evoked fear before, or it felt like separation, or it felt like judgment.
Yes.
Like I was going to be judged, right? And That was just how I was raised,
Yeah.
to think that. But when my roommate Dulce at the time, she would refer to God. She was very spiritual, like not like showy spiritual. She was legitimately had a connection to her higher self, and she meditated, did yoga, read Marianne Williamson, Gabrielle Bernstein, like all these beautiful principles of love. And when she would refer to God, she would sense my fear, and she would say, when I refer to God, I'm just referring to my higher self.
Great.
So that gave me the like permission to start connecting in that way.
Yeah. Which is I think it's a really important like turning point, that because when you have had fear and there's a big story attached to God or even religion, and sort of separating those things out, you know, I think that's a really massive point of courage, and then it all unfolds, right? Totally.
And it's like it's changing your belief system around thinking that God is some like guy in the sky, a man in the sky that's looking down on all of us. Once I started working with plant medicines and really embracing actual unconditional love in all areas of my life, I started realizing that when I refer to God, it's the same thing as referring to universe, source, spirit, soul, higher self. And that's not feminine or masculine, or it can be if you desire it to be. I end up referring to God as a woman more than, just like that feminine essence is really inspiring to me, and is what feels so loving. So it's really however you want.
I was just going to ask you that, because it may be a different experience for everyone, right? But
exactly.
That whatever feels good to you.
Exactly.
And nobody can tell you.
No.
Can you speak on that? The difference between realizing or receiving guidance from your source rather than being told it by somebody else. Can you speak on that a little?
Sure. I love that question. Just because there are a lot of gurus out there and a lot of spiritual teachings, and what my partner Michael and I are really passionate about is bringing people back to their own guidance system, because it is going to look and feel so different for every single person.
Yes.
And so it just letting that like fluidity like really flow in your spiritual practice to find what words really resonate. And there's no right or wrong. Like we're all extensions of source, and we're all one. So it's just really what is going to, for me, the question is always like, what's going to bring you into a place of heart openness and from, from living from your heart. That's the answer.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So on your journey, sort of tapping into this inner wisdom and following that, were there things that you had to let go of?
Oh, yeah. Every day.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, specifically to business, right?
Or personal, yeah.
For me, the first thing I had to let go of was the attachment to creating from my mind. Because I have always been a very creative person, but I can come up with anything in my mind. And it was always a question of like, well, how am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
And so I have journals of like for the last years that are full of ideas and projects and business plans and calculations and how it's going to work out. And so I really, honestly, with my journey into my spirituality and then into Delighted By, which was my first entity that I that was birthed while in my spiritual practice, that was a journey of like committing to leading from my guidance and from my heart, and never from a place of trying to figure it out or trying to be a step ahead. Like I just let go of wanting to limit myself in that way.
Okay, well, that takes me to, I guess, big question for myself, as well as many people out there. So once you have aligned with this source, how do you manage all of the challenges that come up when, your logic or your brain or your ego, however you speak about it, is saying that is really not going to work, or we need to make sure it's going to work before we do it. So how do you take that further commitment to trusting that wisdom when logically on paper it just doesn't look feasible?
Yes, the one word that comes to mind with that question is curiosity. So that is how you get through the challenges, is through curiosity. Because in business, when you're working with what I call it an entity, like when your business is an entity and it's a separate entity from you, and it totally has its life, it has its lifeline already predestined. And so it has planted challenges along the way because of its soul contract with you specifically and with other people. And so because it's on its own timing, it really, like, again, coming from your mind is totally going to limit the soul work that your entity is here to do. And so what I always approach it with, because believe me, there's been so many challenges and challenges that no one thought could ever be worked out financially, on paper. And I had to really surround myself with a powerhouse team that could surrender to something bigger than them, to trusting, like, because it is a trust thing. Like, I actually hear my guidance all the time with this specific entity, and it says, like, I am stretching you. I am stretching your ability to trust and your ability to surrender, because when it comes to miracles, it's not something that your mind can really comprehend, and we are here to be in the experience of miracles. And so that's where, again, coming back to the word curiosity is so important. So as soon as a challenge, quote unquote challenge, arises, what I do is I get to my journal and I start writing to my entity, and I become very curious. I just ask questions. I just say, why is this happening? Or what do you need me to know in the meantime? Because that's going to calm my nervous system to be able to surrender and trust more throughout something that's not making any sense on paper.
Yeah. Okay. And you did mention around financial and money just then, because that is such a challenging topic for everyone that, you know, it can be through your whole life. And whether it's a business decision, or maybe the choice to start a business, or you're leaving a relationship, or so many of those things are tied in with money, right? So I would love to know more, because if you're looking at the numbers on the screen, as you say, and you really can't see the end. You don't know how it's going to manifest. How can you let that go and trust more, I guess, so that you can really be in the flow of what you're trying to create? Yeah. Because I assume that at the end of this, creating abundance will flow into you. But in the meantime, when it feels so protracted, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so it's like 0 decisions from fear. To me, when it comes to conscious enterprise, like you cannot make any, and it's not just about business. You even spoke about, like, leaving a relationship.
Sure.
If you make a decision from fear, then you're probably going to stay in something that you're not, no longer is serving your higher, you know, no longer in your highest and best. No longer empowering you to be of service, no longer be like empowering you to be in an experience of love and delight in life, which is totally not serving the planet. So it's like, that's what you're keeping yourself from if you make a decision from fear, like to stay in something or to not start a business that you know is so inspiring to you. When you be bold in that way, it signals to the universe and to Gaia, like Mother Earth, like, okay, wow, they're ready. Like, they're ready for resources to flow, for support to flow, because they're actually trusting the miracles that are available to them. Yeah, it's you just have to, like, totally plug your nose and jump. You just have to do it. And I know it is scary, but it's like, I don't know, for me, it's just the bolder you can be, the better. Yeah. And I think if we're here to break the patterns of limits and, like, break through the glass ceilings that humans have had for a long time, if we're here to break the old paradigm, then we need to be really, really bold to cut through all of it. Yeah. Yeah. And
there has to be a new way. So if we're striving for a new way, that means that the way we deal with challenges also has to be dealt with in a new way, and definitely something that we're not raised, you know, for people our generation to use, or that skills that we can cultivate, and that it does take time, right, to really trust and can keep on trusting. And I want to ask you about those challenges. You said because your entity has a contract with your soul, that you're on purpose being given opportunities to stretch and learn and grow. Can you talk about that a little bit?
For sure.
And how, I guess, how do you remember when something's going on? How do you remember? Oh, that's right. I'm here to learn something from this experience.
Yes, it's just practice. Like, now it's so easy for me. Like, for instance, we had a massive account that we was supposed to launch in July, this upcoming July. And I literally just found out yesterday that it's not going to happen. because of whatever reasons on the other side's end. And for me, back in the day, I would have approached that as like, oh, what the heck? Like, I'm super bummed. And now I've been practicing this for so long, and I trust the brilliance of my business, of my entity so much that I literally just said to my partner, I'm just trusting it. I'm totally trusting that Delighted By is making sure she has the proper foundation before she launches such a massive account. She loves excellence so much that she wants to make sure she has the right team in place, that she has the right scalability. Like, so it's trusting the brilliance. Like, sometimes we get so ahead of ourselves, but other ways for me, like, the challenges. I mean, Delighted By really desired me to have a much bigger money mindset. So she really pushed me up against those.
Yeah,
edges,
on purpose, right?
On purpose.
So that you would have to learn that, expand in that way.
Yeah. Like, for instance, like, for so long, you know, I started the company on my credit cards, and for so long it was like negative in my bank account. Like, so I was freaked out, but I never let that stop me. I will say that. I never let that stop me. You know, I kept going. But what was so beautiful about what I was hearing from my higher guidance, whether through my own meditation, my own practice, or through my work with plant medicines, she would give me, like, Delighted By, and also the ayahuasca would give me very specific instructions along those challenges.
Okay.
And then what it would do is it would lead me to a beautiful investor that I can't even imagine my life not being with.
Sure.
Like, it's like they're trying to connect the dots that are so much bigger than just getting the hummus on the shelves. Yeah. It's really brilliant how they've orchestrated it all.
And not something that we can see or fathom with our brain, right?
Yeah, because when I tap into who she's connected, my entity has connected me to along the way, and when I tap into the woman that she's made me into, like, my ability to surrender, trust, open, receive, my heart bursts open. Like, the like vibration of love that I reach by just tapping into those memories, to those people, to those interactions, to that truth is like it's like such a high energy that it could heal the planet, and is healing the planet. So I can't imagine just the hummus being on the shelf, like black and white, and not having all of these things along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you talk about connecting in, can you walk us through what what your practice looks like in order to open that channel?
Sure. So I'm really connected to the planet, and that's why I work with plant medicine so intensely. But every single day, my partner and I've been doing this since, like, very early on in I've been sitting with plant medicine since the day one. The day before I birthed Delighted By. But cacao, ceremonial drinking chocolate, came into my life very shortly after birthing Delighted By. And so my daily practice is I have a personal cacao ceremony. And what that looks like is I make my cacao, and it can't just be any cacao, it has to be, you know, the native ceremonial whole bean. And I bless the cacao and I set an intention. And then when I drink the cacao, it's such a heart opener that it allows me to, one, create from that space, and it also allows me to connect to my higher guidance. I write a lot of letters to my soul, to my inner child, to my entity. I meditate. I listen to beautiful music that gets me into that really high vibration. I've had a lot of practice with, like, law of attraction and things like this.
Yep.
But now it's, like, becoming even less rigid, like less law of attraction work, because that's even with the mind.
Sure.
So I'm coming into my body more than ever, and that's my daily practice of, like, breathing into my heart, into my womb space.
Yeah.
You know, so that's like a non-negotiable for me, is that daily cacao ceremony, and a lot of times it's 2.
Sure. Okay.
2 a day.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of times Michael. How has your tribe or your circle impacted on maybe your enjoyment of your spiritual journey? Because I imagine you would have gone on it regardless.
Yeah, I actually did not have a tribe when I started this.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about it. And I was actually just like, Michael and I are writing a book right now, and the first half is called Entity School, which you know. And so I was just talking about this yesterday when I was writing about, wait, sorry, what did you just say before this? You said
about
something.
tribe.
Yeah, the tribe. Yeah, okay. So that's what I was writing about.
How important was it?
Mm-hmm. I was writing about how like I was like still embodying or working on at least these practices and these the pillars of conscious enterprise that I call them, of not leading from fear, of really working on my cellular upgrades to believing that abundance is my divine birthright, to not come from a lack mindset, to really know what surrender is in all situations, to approach my business with curiosity, to talk to my entity. So I was doing this all alone, like literally living out of a suitcase for a year and a half when I first started it, and then lived out of a van. And I didn't have that tribe to be like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like actually a lot of people didn't even understand what I was doing or why, because also the product itself is a very innovative and / unique product. And now it's becoming a little more mainstream. But yeah, it was like, so that's what I want to speak about, is that regardless of who you have there to support you, following your higher guidance always has to be number one. And then when you do that, like it's amazing what the universe has in store for you once you establish this incredible sense of like self. It was a journey of self-love. This has all been a journey of self-love. But when you dive into your spiritual work and you genuinely surrender it with no attachment to what the outside world thinks, and you find that sense of empowerment, that like spreading your wings open and like for no one but yourself, that's when then the tribe comes. But I didn't know that it would come even. I was just still so lit up by seeing myself with my wings. So if that's your intention, to be of service from that place, from that empowered, like loving space, that's when the universe is going to just support you. And so now it's just a huge gift. It is a huge gift. Like it's a gift to sit here with you. Like genuinely, I feel it. Like I receive the love from that. It's literally Mother Earth's way of just being like, I love you. You know?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So in the case that people, maybe they're at the beginning of their journey and they know that there's more and that there's a higher power, but they are the only one, that maybe they don't have anybody that they can have these conversations with, what advice would you give them? Where would they start?
Yeah, the advice that I would give you, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is that like every single person on the planet is their own medicine. And when I say medicine, I'm speaking about like a really high vibe plant medicine that the earth gave us to heal, to transform, to assist, to bring love into our system. So you are your own medicine that is here to heal, to transform, to support other people, to be a vibration that is nurturing, and to be a force of love in the world. And that matters. And so that's my one thing for people, is like, focus on just being the medicine of you. It doesn't matter how many even people you reach, like via Facebook likes, like that. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where I feel like sometimes people focus on like, well, let me try to be this way, and then get approval from social media or from the external world. But if you just focus on being the medicine of you every single day out in the world, then like that one person you impact is gonna go a long way. Even if it was what you impacted was like the tree.
Right.
You know, it's just if you're that, when you get to that place of humility, that's when you know you're on the right track. Do you know what I mean? When it's not for anything external other than being the medicine. Of you.
The medicine. I love that. I really want to let you wrap Unconscious Enterprise. So I am just so mega excited to have come across people like you and Peter Kelly that are talking about this new way of going about enterprise, right, in the world. And you've got the pillars. How many pillars are there? I can't remember now. 9. Yeah. Okay. Can you share, maybe this is a new concept to people that are listening, can you share with them what the heart of this really means, the new way?
Yes, the new way of business, conscious enterprise. To me, the heart of that is being spirit-led. So again, not creating or leading from your mind, but actually leading from a place of higher guidance. And what that ends up looking like is that you're not doing, you're allowing. Like you're not making it happen, you're flowing with it happening. So it's not just different language, but it's a completely different feeling. It's completely moment to moment. And while a lot of entrepreneurs are massive visionaries, Like, I can see very far down the road on many accounts, not just in my life, but I can see the planet down the road. I am a visionary in that way. But when I focus on like letting it happen in the moment to moment, that is to me conscious enterprise. So when I rocked up to my first farmer's market with Delighted By, I was committed to never doing another business plan, not writing any financial projections, and just not trying to figure it out. I knew we were going to be the first dessert hummus to national shelves. I had that vision. There was nothing that was going to stop me from doing it. But I was walking to the farmer's market saying, Spirit, guide me today in what I say, what I do, how I serve the hummus. Guide me in the vibrations that I put into the hummus. And that's the thing for me that's also about conscious enterprise. It's understanding that your product or your service is the medicine. And it's not about how many people you reach. It's about it being in such high integrity with your mission and with love and with those high frequency words we love to throw around, but that are actually very real, like compassion and unconditional love and abundance and unity. Like when we are putting that into our services and our products, that to me is conscious enterprise. And then there's a lot of concepts around conscious enterprise that come to play, like raising capital and not living from fear, and there is. But
something that has come up recently through you for me, and also a number of other ways, which really says to me that it's a big vibration, is around the masculine versus feminine.
Oh yes.
Well, not versus, perhaps balancing. Way of going about business or a success, even if you're you're not running your own business. It's a big shift for me coming out of the corporate environment.
Totally.
And everything success comes from stress and hustle, right? Yes. So that's kind of how we're raised, and we're obsessed with struggle. That's how we know we're doing well or not. What does the opposite look like?
Yeah, because conscious enterprise is not that. It's not the struggle. And that's why I always say the grind is dead. It is totally dead to me. I did have, so Delighted By is my fourth business, and my past businesses were, even though I was very passionate about them and they were coming from good places, I still was trying to force it. And I was trying to hustle and grind and create and do, and the harder I work, then I thought the better it would be.
Sure.
So that with Delighted By, it was like, that was not like in alignment for me anymore.
Yeah.
So how it feels is like learning to receive. So yes, of course, you're going to be of service and you are going to be inspired to take action, but because the planet is is balancing out all this masculine energy, what I'm noticing in most businesses across the board to actually be in a place of alignment and operating consciously is for their founders and their operators to be more in a feminine place.
Sure.
Rather than in a like head down, we're going to focus on the result kind of place.
Yeah.
So for me, in my business, it's very feminine. It's like breathing. Like breathing is the most important part of my business. That's why my title is Chief Breath Taker. Surrounding our space with crystals and making meditation and time in nature as the biggest investment of my business. My relationship and conversations with my entity on paper and in my head are the best ways I can invest in my business. Yeah. So it's my feminine side is like, I am discovering more of my feminine side in my business every single day. And Alyssa Romeo told me on one of my soul sessions, she said, many women think they're operating in their feminine in their business and they're not actually. And I was like very curious about that. And I feel like I'm discovering what she meant. Especially because recently I've stepped away from Delighted By like all operations. Like I'm like, none of this is in alignment for me anymore. Like not a single email. Like one more email of me doing. Like it's different from me like being of support to my team member. But that's different. But like to do something is so again, with leading from this place of feminine, it's really recognizing where things in your business are not in a place of alignment. And I always say, am I delighted by this? If I'm not delighted by it, then why am I doing it?
Yes.
But then again, classic entrepreneur thinks, no, you're going to have to, I literally had like the biggest business billionaire in the world tell me, oh, Makenzie, you're going to have to get over that. Because you know, you've had a lot of life experiences and you've worked really hard and that's not going to stop. And that's just not my truth anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I've done enough. I've worked hard enough, and I'll always continue to be of service.
Yeah.
Like, it maybe even from the outside, people think that my partner and I work really hard on our not-for-profit. It doesn't feel like that. We're like, we're genuinely delighted by it, and it's just like flowing and different energies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what a breath of fresh air it is to think that you can be, well, even the meaning of success is changing, it's shifting. We've got an opportunity to be a part of that if you so choose. But to think that I can be successful without compromising, sacrificing myself, like, that's really groundbreaking.
Exactly.
You know?
That is why it's a journey of your own worthiness issues. So, like, to believe that we are worthy of receiving so much by not working hard or doing anything. Yes. Just by being us is what, like, being the light that we are is how we are of service. But we have been conditioned by our parents a lot of times, and just by society, to be like, oh, you guys are just way too self-indulgent. Yeah. Like, you're just way too self-indulgent to think that you deserve to not work hard but to still receive everything. Yeah. And we have to just, like, really, like, heal that opinion.
A way that I recently have been thinking about that is that I don't hold anything against the generations before us, and in fact I'm tremendously grateful to them.
Me too.
And because I'm so grateful, I'm going to claim my freedom.
Yes.
You know, it's just as much for them as it is for myself. And because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, they're right, they worked so hard and they really, really did, and they were so stressed and diminished, and that it's easy to feel guilty.
It is.
You know?
I know.
But really the courage and the strength comes from releasing that story and being like, I'm going to claim my freedom for them as well.
Exactly. And then they still get to choose. Like, a lot of them still have many years left where they can actually turn it around if they want to.
Yeah.
Even my grandparents, they have an opportunity every single day if they want to turn it around for themselves and let it be really easy and not have to worry or stress about, like, their retirement fund.
Yeah.
That's available to them.
Sure.
So we have to go first, though.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And what does Peter call it in the beginning of the book? Divine intolerance.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I'm going to wrap this because we've been going for about 30 minutes, but I want to end on a final question because I want you to share with people what is available to you when you're in alignment. So can you cast a vision of, you know, for people that aren't there yet, or they're aspiring to, or maybe they're in the dark night of the soul right now, what's possible? What can your life be if you're in alignment with your inner wisdom?
Yeah. Oh my God, so much. So when you're in fullest alignment of your higher self or of your soul or of your soul's purpose here, my experience of that thus far is, like, first of all, oh my God, so much is coming in. Definitely abundance, like an endless supply of abundance is available to you. And that's not just if you're in alignment. Like, it's not like you have to be in alignment to be worthy of this abundance. It's just that you have to be in alignment to actually open yourself up and receive the abundance. So that's what you have available. You have, like, a lot of ease and grace, like constant miracles, just like constantly being wowed, like, what? Like, really? Like, this is possible? For me, it's looked like an amazing romantic partnership, like, beyond my wildest dreams, to be able to, like, receive the man of my dreams that is so, like, we're creating together and we're on the same page and we have the same values and we're diving into our spiritual practice individually and also coming together and creating from that space. It's already impacting the world in a more powerful way than I could do on my own. So that has been something for me. I had to get in alignment to open myself up to receiving that kind of love. And then other ways that it showed up is like I said, like, the just absolute love from your surroundings, like seeing the beauty in everything and receiving the most high vibe friendships that can actually, like, contribute to your process and vice versa. Just such clean energy, you know. It's just amazing, like, how life is supposed to be so good and so fun. And it doesn't mean, though, that we aren't meant to purge and heal and transform. Like, that has been a part, like you said, the dark night of the soul. well, Michael and I have like a dark night of the soul like once a week, you know, at least. What, like, if that, I don't know what, like, especially, like, the dark night of the soul specifically means, but like, I know what you're talking about, and we dive into shadow work all the time because we're healers. We're here to dive into that. So it's like, how can we as a collective purge and release something if we aren't willing to do it? And so opening yourself up to that kind of service, again, opens yourself up to that much more love. So
yes,
that's
absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself and for all of the work that you're doing here on the planet. And I'm sure you can feel, Makenzie, like even through the technology. And I'm just so grateful to you and for sharing your a little bit of yourself with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, cheers, guys.